Now, today's focus topic is one which excites a lot of people sometimes. We're talking about the next upcoming major cultural, social, religious, well, not religious, but quite a cultural phenomenon, which we call Valentine's Day, which is 2 days away on the 14th of February. And it was actually also known as Saint Valentine's Day or the Feast of Saint Valentine's, and it's celebrated annually. And originally, it was a Christian feast day honoring one or two of the early Christian martyrs. But over a period of time, it has gained a significant cultural, religious, and very much a commercial celebration of romance and love in many regions around the world. Now, love comes in a variety of aspects. And what we are going to be exploring today is what is love. And so to explore this further, I would like to share a little video that we have from J-Bai, and then we will come back and have a quick discussion around this as well.
Because people always, you hear the word, oh, love is important, and love, everybody talk, all the gurus speak about love, and it's wonderful. And of course, youngsters talk about love, but in a different way. But let's talk about love in general. First of all, you may think this is a straightforward thing, you all understand, but in reality, when you try and understand what is meant by the word love, you realize how difficult it is. I'll just give you an example. Suppose I ask a very young child, a 4 or 5-year-old young boy, saying, well, what is love? Because he always says, I love my mom. I say, what is love? What is exactly love? He say, it's something that makes you feel nice and warm. See, this is how he defines love. Makes you nice and warm. Okay. I say, look, in winter in London, suppose I plonk you in front of a radiator in the winter morning and you start to feel nice and warm. Are you in love with the radiator? And you jump and say, no, I didn't mean that. See? I'm trying to encapsulate what is meant by word love, and this is not that straightforward. So a young child will just try and understand there's something that makes him nice and warm and love, kind of comfortable. Now suppose I ask a teenager, what is love? Of course he'll start fidgeting, looking away from me. He knows well. I say, I know exactly what you mean, my boy. I understand exactly what you mean. If that girl that you met at a party responds to your text message, surely that is love. Isn't that what you mean? He says, yes, you got it. Yes, uncle, you understood what is the meaning of love. I say, my boy, actually, this is whether you like it or not, there will be something called love there, but it's really your hormones, the pesky little hormones playing up. This is your, physical attraction, and you're equating it to love. You see, no, it's more, something more. So what is more to this idea of love? People talk about love left, right, and center. What the heck is it? Then suppose you ask a mature, grown-up person, kind of very clever and intelligent, and say, define love for me. What is love? He said, love means looking after each other, taking care of others, taking care of each other. That is what love is. It sounds so, nice and kind of mature. Love is looking after your wife and your children. So caring for others is what is meant by love. I said, oh, interesting. Suppose you go to that posh restaurant around the corner, sit down, and before the waiter starts serving you food, you offer him a 50-pound tip in advance. You know what will happen? That waiter will be hovering around your table continuously. Sir, are you okay? Can I put the napkin here? Is the cutlery clean? Oh, do you want to sit near the window? He will be running around, going around you all the time saying, sir, can I do this for you? He's caring so much for you. Surely he's in love with you. That's the way you define love. He's caring for you. You say, no, that's not love. See? Every time you try and capture something which is essentially difficult to capture, you will struggle with the language, the vocabulary, the manner in which you approach the subject. So now let me give you the spiritual ideas of what is this love thing that everybody talks about, and yet when you try and get a handle on it, it seems to be very, very tricky. You see, in fact, a lot of endearing features that all living things have, not only human beings, all living things have, in a way reflect the underpinning they have, which is not material, and yet something dramatic, but it's endearing, something good and thing that's popping out of all living things, not only human beings, all living things. And this thing that's popping out, endearing, nice thing, they're coming out every living thing, is this thing we can call compassion, love for the others, and so on. So what is this thing? Underpinning to everybody is not matter, like Richard Dawkins is suggesting. It's essentially something non-material trying to manifest itself, make itself visible using this material frame and our material condition. And that thing that is trying to pop out, spring out, comes out in different methods, different ways. And one of the ways in which it shows itself is the idea of compassion, love for the human beings, love for the living things. It is a natural thing. Suppose you see a little, kind of a snail going along the road, and a cyclist just crushes it. You all go, what's happened? The link you have at the deeper level with other living things has become revealed in this particular way, that you feel at one with other living things, not human, other living things. And that in a way expresses itself as this natural compassion or love we have for others, not necessarily physical love, these hormones playing up or looking after others, but something that's showing itself through every living thing. So it is, if you like, one of the essential litmus tests that we are not material beings, but something deeper within us, which is showing itself as real, love, if you like, attraction toward other human beings, compassion of being toward the living thing. That shows itself as love. So this is a more deeper vision of what is love at the spiritual level. But at different levels, we kind of, in a way, polarize it in the way that we like to view it.
I'm still a bit confused, Vijay Bhai. What is love? What was Vijay Bhai saying there? Could you please expand?
It is actually confusing. Love is a very complicated topic and a very broad topic. But I think the key issue is that the issue of love, is it selfish or unconditional? This is the key thing, because quite often we love something because it's a benefit to us, right? Like Jay was explaining that you want that girl to text you because it kind of resonates with your hormones, which is, one way. Or if, I know so many others, they love food as a benefit, right? It's something that they get in return. They love food not because if they gobble the food, they feel good about it. So love comes in many, many kind of ways. So I think regarding the Valentine's, we know obviously it's mainly love for somebody, and which is it's a very good thing, no doubt. But I think by and large, the deeper idea that Jay Bhai mentioned, that the compassion for all things, and as the example is really good, that sometimes when something suffers in the wild, you shudder. Why would you shudder? There's nothing to do with us, because if you see a snail or something, or somebody drives onto a hedgehog on the road, even when you see a dead, fox on the road hedge, why do you shudder sometimes? Feel, look at that poor. Why do you feel that? And that's the thing. Despite something so far apart, even sometimes a tree is cut in the park, you go, oh no, we have lost that tree. Oh no, why do we do that? Or we may think it's just because because we should love for nature or something. No, as Jevan said, there's a very deep connect to us. We are all one, and that's the thing. To realize that and to show that unconditional love for that oneness in everything, that is true love in my view. It reminds you of this bhajan. I don't know if you've heard this. Sabse Unchi Prem Sagai. Have you heard that song? Which is a very good song, which says that unconditional love. And I think there's some very good examples in there, like Krishna Bhagavan actually became Arjun's Sarthi. Now, charity is a very low status in life. No, in those days, I think Shakti wouldn't even eat a charioteer's house, right? But he became his charioteer. Why? Unconditional love. Or like Shabri, story of Shabri, when she's offered Ram fruits, which he tastes, and by mistake she gave bitter fruits to him. And Ram ate it unconditionally. He didn't say, oh, no. He's not benefiting anything out of it. But that is unconditional love. And that is the beautiful thing about love. And I think if we develop that kind of love, then I think the world will be a much better place. But by and large, it's a very complicated topic and not easy to deal with. Sita, can you add on that?
Yeah, no, I think you've covered it amazingly. I think especially in the world today, we're so focused on me and how I connect with other people. So it's all about the different people and how they're separate, but then sometimes they get connected, and that's what it's all about. But really, there is a need to sort of shift the emphasis away from us being separate entities, separate lumps of matter, because that's not how it is in reality. It's more about the sort of connections that we have, and the way that we express this connection on a human level is through this idea of love and compassion. And it's not conditional, as Vijay Bhai was saying, it's completely unconditional, this sort of connection that we have. It's just a case of trying to tap into it and sort of letting the beauty of love shine through in that particular way. If we try and shift our emphasis away from being lumps of matter, and we sometimes love certain things or we love certain people, and that's just how we sort of stumble through life, rather than thinking about it like that, if we think about it as everything is interconnected, and on a human level, we express it through this idea of love, that's just a much more broader, more universal way of approaching it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sita Ben, Vijay Bhai. So, Sita Ben, if we think about this as we are spiritually connected to everyone, and that sort of gets expressed as love in different, we would feel differently with different things, living things or non-living things. And even in living things, we would be more connected with people rather than, say, animals. Some people are connected more with their animals than human beings. Why is that such a difference if there's a connect with everyone and everything?
Yes, there is definitely that connection with everyone and everything. But I think we have to remember, especially what we sort of learn about from Hinduism, is there is a scale. So the clearest manifestation of spirit is through the human form, and then it goes down towards animal, plant life, single-celled organisms, whatever. And that sort of shapes our sort of connection with other living things. So say, for example, if you had to make the awful decision of choosing between the life of an animal or the life of a human, we're more inclined to caring for the human life over the animal life in most cases, although not in all cases. Some people would disagree with that. But that's just kind of like the way that we are. The clearest way that we can is the clearest expression of the spirit is through the human form, because we can analyze the world, we can understand much more subtle ideas than, say, animal or plant life can. So that's possibly why we feel a greater affinity or a greater connection with humans rather than sort of plants or single-celled organisms or whatever it is. Although that connection is there throughout the entire living kingdom, but I guess maybe we express it and we feel it more with humanity and with, clearest expressions of spirit. Vijay Bhai?
I think, Sita, you've got it beautifully, the idea. So I think you're right. I mean, there's a gradation, obviously, on how you think. But nevertheless, I think there's one thing we can all do is try to build a mind frame to try and expand our idea of love to everything else. It's quite interesting. Recently, there was I watched a video on the 1,000-year celebration of Ramanuja. There was, and then of course somebody asked a question about why does he carry these 3 sticks? They call them 3 Dandi, monks. And these 3 sticks represent, control over your speech, mind, and deed, right? So speech, thought, and deed. And the idea is that to develop compassion, for on all levels. When you think all the time, think compassionately. When you speak beautiful words, when you do action, do proper deeds. And by and large, of course, as Sita mentioned, they're more inclined to be more favorable to some humans or human beings than, say, animals. But how do you keep on expanding that idea and go further and further out and show as much love, as love in that sense, spiritual kind of connection? The more we expand, the better it is. But of course, that's hard work we have to work on. By and large, we have our egos as well, obviously. We tend to love some people more than others because of whatever reasons. And some are good reasons, I guess. But the idea is, on the whole, to be spiritual. I mean, if you look at the spiritual giants like Ramakrishna Paramhans or Ramana Maharishi, these are true spiritual giants. Their love is unconditional for everyone. Doesn't matter who comes. It could be, in the case of Ramakrishna Paramhans, it could be, Keshav Chandra Sen, who was his kind of rival rival in the sense, but in Brahmo Samaj. Everybody who comes to him, they feel his love intensely. Automatically, they feel his love, right? Why? Because he's got the kind of the aura flowing through him, and I think that's what you really want to achieve. I think that's the aim of how to connect this. But by and large, of course, normal humans, they're going to discriminate love on basis of who you know, what you know, how you benefit, the ego, and all these things kind of come into play. But yeah, that's where we are at the moment. Yeah.
It's very interesting, Vijay Bhai. You mentioned Ramana Maharshi and Ramakrishna Paramhans. But when we see, Ramakrishna Paramhans especially, some people, if they go to him, he will just send them away, go have a look at the temple and the beautiful garden. And some people, he will do the special touch and do a special.
It's called tough love. Yes.
Why is such difference if everyone, if there's
No,
Brahman in everyone?
No. Actually, that's a very good reason for that. See, Ramakrishna Paramahansa were highly spiritually evolved persons. They know what is actually true love and what is good for different people at different times. You remember the story of Ramakrishna Paramahansa? Very interesting story. One of his devotees, I think, was in a boat and somebody said bad things about him and got very aggressive and angry with him, right? And he said, "Can you calm down, next time? Please don't do that." And the other one said, "Nothing. Is hold on a minute. You got to say something at least." Yeah. So I think that is he's using his love for that person to make him a much more rounded person. So you see there a lot. I mean, what really amazes me is even the story of Ramana Maharishi when I was reading his kind of biography. Sometimes little girls, he was like, 60-year-old Baba. Little girls go to him and they bring dolls and whatever. He goes, "Oh, can you play, marriage ceremony, whatever?" And you sit down and play happily. You think that this person is a 6-year-old child. Look at him. Right? And sometimes you'd play marbles, marbles with little boys. And if you just look at him, if you just all of a sudden appear there and see him, what's wrong with him? Is he gone mad or what? But somebody who sees the divine in everybody at all times, he's playing with his God. You see what I'm saying? So in that sense, the idea of true love actually is expressed in that kind of manner. It's something very subtle but very, very powerful message we can learn from such kind of actions. That's called really true love. And doesn't matter even the greatest scholars when they went to him, like Ganpati Muni, a brilliant a Sanskrit scholar who's done the Uma Sahasranam, that book with about amazing Sanskrit kind of works. Even when he goes Ramana Maharishi, he kind of all of a sudden becomes like very calm and like a cow, as they say, right? That love that flows from this kind of people. This is something that although I don't know if you can ever achieve it, it's something to aspire to. It's Sita Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there were some people that Ramakrishna would give a special touch to and give a spiritual experience to, but the people who he knew were not ready for that experience, he would just send them off to look at the nice flowers in the garden and all of that. But the amazing thing was he was such a spiritual giant, and he felt so immensely connected to the living kingdom to the point where if sometimes people were walking on the grass, he would say, "Ow, ow, my chest is hurting, because he could feel the pain of the grass, of people walking over the grass. And it's just amazing that, he's so connected. He's such a spiritual giant that he was able to connect at such a deep level to the living kingdom. It just shows the level of interconnectedness at a non-material level. That's what my dad kept talking about, this idea of quantum. Everything is deeply, deeply connected on a non-material level. And through these kind of amazing experiences of personalities like Sri Ramakrishna, Ramana Maharishi, we can see that deep connection with the whole living kingdom.
Wonderful to hear that, Sita Ben. So we got Valentine's Day coming up on 14th of February. And it's very famous in the Western world, and it's getting popular in India as well, especially in cities. What is it all about, and does it have anything to do with love, Sita Ben?
Yeah, I mean, like all sort of festivals, it starts off with very good intentions, more sort of less materialistic intentions, and then it sort of starts becoming more and more commercialized and materialistic in the way that Christmas has, for example. And obviously the main sort of exposure you get to Valentine's Day is all the sort of stuff that you're supposed to buy for your partner, and then there feels like this kind of pressure to like do all this stuff, and it feels it can feel a little bit artificial, you can argue. But then at the same time, it's also nice to have a day which celebrates the love that you have with people like your family and your friends, and it's a lovely gesture in a way. But having said that, I mean, the commercial element is really sort of overflowing. I know that many times in the past you try and book a restaurant on Valentine's Day, it's like, forget it. Everyone feels like they have to do something, and it shouldn't really be an obligation. Every day should be like Valentine's Day, really. Vijay, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's become a global phenomenon. But obviously, the reason why it's really popular is because it brings two people who kind of have the partner to each other, and they love each other. So it's, oh yeah, let's celebrate. And because it's done as a kind of in a mass communal manner, everybody feels that we should be part of that kind of, that celebration. But I mean, as Sita said, it's become so commercial sometimes. So I think we'll have to, in a way, keep it personal, I guess, more than pay the commercial part. I think you're right. As people also pressure to buy a big present. Oh, where's my Valentine's present? What present? So that can happen as well. What I would suggest is that if you celebrate Valentine's, please go ahead. But why don't you both get together and do something for somebody else? That would be an idea to do something. So okay, that's okay. Today is a Valentine's Day. We're showing our excellent love for each other, but let's do this. Let's give some money to charity to somebody who's less well off. Then it show that both of you get a deeper connection between the two, that to show love for the wider world. That maybe is a good idea to maybe start off with. But by and large, I know there's a lot of political angles, a lot of cultural issues, a lot of conflict with this, this festival in many countries because they're not maybe Christian based. But I would suggest that, of course, the biggest problem is because it become popular because of commercial reasons. Commercial drives all this, and that's what kind of makes it kind of not only take, personally for me, it makes me feel I don't want to take part in it because it's way too commercial. That's the main, I think, issue I have with that. By and large, as Sita says, make every day Valentine's Day, maybe that's a better idea, But there you go, Manish.
That's so wonderful to hear. We got a very nice comment from Charmaine. She's saying, I feel love is giving. I feel holy when I'm giving, be it attention, charity, service, affection, planting flowers, petting an animal. And she says, I'm a true romantic. I feel you are, Charmaine. That's wonderful. We take a next question, and a comparable festival in Hinduism, amongst Hindus, is this Karwa Chauth, the idea of Karwa Chauth. But that's more spiritual, where spiritually angled. And is it to see God in your partner? What's Karwa Chauth about, Vijay Bhai?
I think Karwa Chauth is quite a old tradition in, I think, primarily North India, and I think also in parts of Punjab, where I think primarily women actually try and pray for getting a good partner. So I think by and large is to not see, maybe it's to see God, but most sees you get someone who is spiritual. So don't forget the real aim of life is to marriage is as a spiritual bond. People forget that. More than a material bond, marriage is actually in many ways a spiritual bond. And you want to have God set the children. So I guess Karwa Chauth is a ceremony where you wish that you have a partner who is truly spiritual, who can look after needs and many primary spiritual needs. And that's what I think people aim for, right? So, and by and large, there's this very famous saying that in every house, the pillar of spirituality is basically the mother, more than the father. It's always been the case in history. It's changing now, which is a good thing, I guess. But by and large, so of course, they want somebody who's spiritual as well, who kind of be a good partner. So that's the idea behind it. So it's not a bad idea; it's a good idea, I guess, as well. Yeah. Yeah. Sita,
Do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can really think of is like the whole sort of point of trying to find a good partner is that you've got a good friend and a good sort of spiritual companion. So that's why during the sort of the wedding ceremony, like we say that the wife is called Sahadharmini, the companion for making spiritual progress. And that's the whole point of doing these kind of ceremonies, trying to get a good partner so that, yes, you can have a family and children and fulfill the material side of things, but you also want somebody who can hold your hand at the time of making spiritual progress. We shouldn't forget that side of things, and that's often sort of forgotten. And having said that, I mean, I guess you have to sort of interpret it in the way that you like, but I know that Sri Ramakrishna said that birth, marriage and death are fixed. So take it as you like, but maybe it's just predestined anyway, and we end up stuck with the partner that we're supposed to be stuck with. So maybe it's already all pre-decided.
That's interesting to hear. So, Sita Ben, there is idea of, especially there is this Pati Pratag Dharma, and I think it was mainly based on seeing God in people, and the idea was seeing God in your partner. Does it work? Could you see God and serve your partner as God?
Yes, of course, because the whole purpose of marriage, as Dad has said many times in his videos, is not to just live with each other, to live for each other. So it's really important as part of a marriage that you're not just focused on you and your self-interest. Actually, having a partner helps you focus your attention away from me, and what do I want, to what does the other person want? You know, how can I make them feel happy? So the whole purpose of spiritual living is expanding yourself, seeing yourself in those around you rather than just in your own small little frame. So that's the point, is that this kind of exercise can help, yes, you kind of have a family and all of that, but you also practice spirituality in your everyday life, and don't just extend it to your husband or your wife, extend it to your children. Obviously that comes quite naturally because, you know, the natural instinct is there to protect and look after your children, but also, which is something which is often forgotten, is look after the elder generation, look after your parents, your grandparents, and extend it to your friends, your neighbours, the community. So perhaps marriage is the first stepping stone to thinking about others, but then expand it as much as you can. And as Charmaine was saying, this whole process of connecting with others, connecting with the living kingdom, is what gives you that buzz, that sort of tapping into that spirituality. So the more that we can do that, the more sort of fulfilling and spiritual our life will be. Vijay Bhai?
I think you've covered it beautifully, Sita. I think the thing is that, as Sita said, live for others. And what you mentioned about, Manish, about seeing God in others, and that is hard to do. It needs a lot of practice and changing your mindset and understanding. But I mean, best source of that is, Ramakrishna Paramas. He actually, put Sharada Devi on a pedestal and actually worshipped her as a goddess. So he was seeing it all the time, seeing the living God. But it needs practice because there's so much, so to say, Maya driving us, and quite often we get pulled back immediately. You try and think of how I think get pulled back, but it's a question of practice. But I think as time goes on, if you practice that and see the divinity in everybody else, it will come in time and you'll get there, basically. Yeah.
That is a wonderful explanation. Thank you, Sita Ben and Vijay Bhai. We take next question. Before we take a question, there is a suggestion from Swami Paramatma. He's saying, please address the use of God. We have so many more appropriate terms and not this Christian term which also denies the Devis. Should we use some other term than God? Vijay Bhai, what's your thoughts on this?
I think in a way, the question is that I think the term God is, unfortunately, because we are kind of in English, unfortunately, so many things we translate in English cannot match, our Indian languages. So many words like that. Even like, if when you say Hindi is religion, it's not religion, right? But that's the nearest term we have in English. That's the key issue here. But idea is this, right? So, how do you describe? And that's a tricky part. It's not as easy as it looks. But of course, by and large, when we talk of God in Hinduism, we mean God in the broadest possible sense. Devi is a principle in any kind, because Hindus are diverse in their own nature. So by and large, it's the kind of nearest we use. So it's just common lingo, but hopefully most of the Hindus get the idea. When you say God, we mean in the broadest possible sense, including Devis and everybody else. But yes, it's an issue. I agree with Swami Paramatma in that sense. Yeah, Sita Ben?
No. I think you're completely right. I think because we are sort of, restricted to the English language in a lot of the ways of the way that we work as Hindu Academy, we end up sort of having to use the vocabulary of English, and that involves using the word God a lot of the time. And when you think of God, you often think of it as like a male personality sitting in the clouds. And it's in Hinduism, that's definitely, that's one way for sure, but there are many, many other ways in Hinduism as well. So in a way, yes, saying God all the time sort of restricts the idea of God in a way, which is a bit of a contradiction in terms, because God in Hinduism is female as well. It started off, it was such an ancient idea within Hinduism to think of God as female. And it doesn't even have to be God as a person. God is the nature, the Brahman permeating as the universe. So we've got such a broad way of defining God that the word God itself is limiting.
Yes, we are stuck with a language that we are operating in, and unfortunately, is the word that is commonly used, and we are very comfortable using it. And if we use some other Sanskrit terms, would other people connect to it and understand it? That is a question. We take a question from Christine Perillo. She's asking an interesting question. Are there any thoughts on soulmates? Is this a real thing or something an individual feels? Do we need a partner? Sitaben?
It depends on your perspective, but I do believe in the idea of soulmates because it's possible that, as I was saying before, I do believe what Ramakrishna says is that birth, marriage, and death are fixed. So the person you are meant to get married to, you will somehow end up getting married to them. But everyone is entitled to their own opinion on that. But there's also the possibility, obviously, we believe in the idea of reincarnation as well. So it's very possible that, you end up getting married to the same person that you were married to in a previous life. Who knows? I mean, unless you remember your past life and you're both lucky enough to remember your past life, who knows? There is a chance that if you share such a deep connection, that you will both be reincarnated and both get married again in a future life. Who knows, really? But it's a very, very personal interpretation, and you can't sort of force your opinion on anybody else. But I do think that there is some kind of connection that you have with the person you're going to get married to. But everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I don't know what Vijay Bhai thinks.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Sita. I think the main thing is, I think nowadays some people also use the term soul friends, because you're right. Sometimes, if you want to confine to somebody regarding your spiritual journey or the suffering you have, and quite often some people I've seen that, he's my soul friend. Because, of course, there are many people who don't really get married. Some people don't need a partner, because I was very lucky to meet my father's guru many years back. And I asked him that question, why didn't you get married? And he goes, well, to me, I don't, because I want to, everybody is my, kind of partner in that sense, spiritual partner. So he was seeing himself as love for the whole of humanity. So he never chose to get married. But I think it's good to have somebody, if not somebody you're married to, at least somebody you can discuss the matters of the soul, a friend as well. And I'm pretty sure I've seen a lot of people like that who have soul friends, very close to them, who kind of guide and help each other regarding spiritual matters, or even if they're down and out, give them some spiritual strength. So that's a very good thing. So I would say not necessarily that you have to have a partner or something, but at least a very good friend whom you can share. That'd be a very good thing if you can do that. But yes, I think there is something like a soulmate or a soul friend, and we all need one, as a matter of fact. If you don't have one, I think we should get to one. It's really important to look at the matters of the soul. Yeah. Manish bhai.
Thank you, Vijay Bhai. Yes, interesting idea, soulmate, and whether we need one or do we need a partner. Different people will have different opinion on that. It depends on your experience with your partner as well, I suppose. We take next question from V. Garg. He's saying, can you talk about love beyond the mundane, intellectual and emotional idea to transcendental idea of love related to moksha? Not sure I understand the question. Can you talk about love beyond the mundane, intellectual and emotional idea to the transcendental idea of love related to moksha? I thought we talked about that, but Vijay Bhai, any thoughts?
Okay. Well, it depends how you look at love, right? If you say it's bliss or anand, then it's okay in moksha terms. Because as you mentioned earlier, love is a very broad term. By and large, love is something that we use in our material existence as we live now. But of course, when you say unconditional love for God, it's different. But if you achieve moksha, the idea of love in this common sense we have is not that love. That love is ananda or bliss, which is a million times. And it's at a different level altogether. It's not linked to a person. It's linked to the idea that you are self-realized. That's a totally different kind of love. So I think you can't just kind of take the love as we see it now and just extrapolate it and put it in moksha. It's not the same thing. I haven't experienced moksha, so I can't tell you, but I'm pretty sure it's not the same thing.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I think maybe because we are so sort of seeing certain kinds of people like our family and our friends on a regular basis, you start developing an attachment to those people, that small group of people. But the whole purpose of spiritual living is to not just love that small group of people, but to love everybody. And that's why in Hinduism we have this wonderful idea of the ashram system. So yes, you go through student stage, you get married, you go through the whole process. But then there comes the sannyas ashram, which is the fourth ashram, which is often forgotten and most people don't bother with it. The idea that you sort of, in a way, I think in the olden days, people used to actually walk away from their family, the people that they were attached to, and not just see them as their family, but see the whole world as their family. And that's quite a very, very difficult procedure. I don't think I would be able to do it. Walking away from your family, so that you kind of get rid of this idea of love as being associated with just attachment to, your family and your children and all of that, but seeing the whole world as your family. Having that level of attachment with everything, and in a way that kind of gets rid of this whole idea of suffering that is associated with, for example, somebody passing away that you're very close to. If you're a sannyasi in the truest sense, you see the whole world as just being a dynamic sort of, living, breathing something to love, essentially. So it makes no difference to you in the sense that one soul has disappeared, but yes, another one has sort of appeared somewhere else for you to love. So it's getting rid of that whole idea of attachment to a small group of individuals and loving the whole of humanity for what it is, as being Atman, essentially.
Wonderful stuff. Tushar Patel has left a wonderful comment saying, your kind view on soulmate and soul friend is so reassuring and beautiful. Thank you, Sitaben. It made my day. So thank you, Tushar Patel, for your wonderful message. We take a next question from Gerard Dassin. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. He's asking, does compassion or for nature sometimes imply vegetarianism? Sitaben?
Yes, it can be. Although, this is the thing, is that, in Hinduism, we don't impose directives on anybody to behave in certain, specific ways, as in being vegetarian or non-vegetarian, because you get many Hindus who do eat meat, and we don't sort of say, oh, you're a bad person because of that. But yes, it can definitely include trying to live in a way that causes the least possible harm to the living kingdom. And that can involve becoming vegetarian or becoming vegan, which is even more so, because that's even less treading on animal life. So it's one of those things that Hinduism is not restricted to saying that you are a good person or a bad person based on what you choose to eat and wear and all of that. But then the other side of it is, if you really truly want to be compassionate to the living kingdom, it may be worth considering becoming vegetarian or becoming vegan even, because even so many products that we use, it's not even just restricted to what you eat and what you drink. So many things, what you wear, if leather is used, if, all these animal products are sort of infiltrated our whole sort of system, our whole way of living. So if we can become a bit more conscious and a bit more aware of the living kingdom and think of how we can avoid trampling on other life as much as possible. It's not possible completely, because even the whole process of breathing involves killing lots of organisms and bacteria. So how far can you go? But with certain things like this, making sort of ethical decisions, it can go a long way towards promoting more spiritual way of living, because you're considering the needs of the living kingdom aside from your own sort of conveniences and needs. Vijay bhai?
I think, Sita, you have not much to add really on that. You got it pretty well. All I can say is I think by and large, life lives on life. And that is a fact which you can't avoid. But as Sita mentions, if you try and eat plants maybe, which are not that clear manifestation as, say, animals, then the better if you can do that. But by and large, it's something that we can't avoid. As Sita mentioned, we millions of bacteria which are dying in our body all the time. So the more we can do, the better. That's what I can add to that. And Manish bhai.
Wonderful stuff. We got an interesting question from Charmaine, and we saw earlier someone mentioned Anahat Chakra as well. So she's saying some scriptures describe the location of God in heart, literally. What are your thoughts? So, and in yoga theory, we get this Anahat chakra, which is a heart chakra. And when you're in love, you're supposed to feel that chakra and some the warmth in it. What are your thoughts? Vijay Bhai, sorry.
Yeah, so I think I've heard of the chakra. Its base chakra sits near the heart on the chest. And chakra is responsible for, it's basically a lot of emotion, also for love. It's got a good idea behind compassion, feelings. And he said that when something happens to you, that chakra is kind of evoked to share those feelings and have those feelings with others. So I think that's a good thing, I guess. But the thing is, the idea of God sitting in that heart, there are some Hindus who would say that, Hindus in the heart. But by and large, I think, again, this is a very interesting thing to mention here, that, the Dvait people who believe in the God as Anu Sukshma, is like an atom. The Atman is like an atom. That resides in the heart or Brahman, whereas the Shankara tradition, which is Advait, soul is Vibhu, is all pervasive, like current in your body, like, everywhere. Like it's universal current, universal soul. So there are different beliefs on that. But yes, some believe that God is in heart. I guess it's a good thing, isn't it? Because heart is such a special thing. It's a question of emotion, love, compassion. And of course, you want God to be part of that. So yes, why not? If somebody says that, that's okay. I'm not against that. But yeah, I think spiritually, there's a lot of philosophical, there's a lot of different kind of views on that. Asita?
Yeah, no, that's amazing. There's not much more I can really add to that. I mean, apart from, I think, when you sit down to meditate, I think your energies when you start are sort of at the base of your spine, and then the positive energy comes up and up and up. So yes, I think that the more that we can elevate that energy towards higher and higher sort of parts of our body, towards the heart and then to the head, then that probably means that you're making spiritual progress. And it reminds me of what's said in the Kathopanishad, like imagine Atman as being the size of a thumb in your heart, and that's a way that you can sort of focus your attention on something which is so incredibly vast. So it uses the example of imagine it being the size of a thumb, and you can sort of focus your meditation on that, because if you focus on the vast expanse of reality, I think you'll just get a bit lost. So it's better to have something tangible to focus on, but everyone is entitled to their own way of thinking and practicing spirituality.
Kana bolena, kana bolena, पूछो बार बार kana bolena, क्या है प्रीत क्या है प्यार कान्हा बोलेना.